Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Wendy Nichols and the Platform Party.
Okay, delegates, welcome to this afternoon's session. Just a couple of changes to the CAC report from this morning. We will shortly be taking the Cooperative Party Speaker, and later this afternoon, after the speech of the Mayor of Bristol, we will hear a speech from Jonathan Ashworth. So, go on.
Chair Conference, Tony Cairns, Communication Workers Union. My point of order on page 7 of the CAC report, it's in all of them, talks about the sale and distribution of material within the conference centre. It says the CAC does not permit the unauthorised sale or distribution of any material within the conference centre. So I have to assume that my free copy of the Morning Star, sponsored by my own union, and my free copy of the Daily Mirror, available in the conference centre, are authorised by the CAC. What is not acceptable in this city is the London Lounge giving away free copies of the Sun newspaper at a Labour Party conference in a city whose people and football fans were vilified and lied about by that paper, and I looked to the CAC to tell them to stop it. They know they shouldn't be doing it, because when one delegate asked to take it away, they wrapped it in a copy of the Times because they were ashamed of having to do it. Show some respect for the people of this city.
Thank you, Delegate. I'm sure that you know that everybody is united in that point of order. And whilst it is a matter for CAC, I can ask Greg and the party staff to actually advise the CAC that they should make sure it is no longer in this building and should never come here again. Okay, thank you. Delegates, can I now welcome Gareth Thomas, the Cooperative Party Speaker. Thank you, Gareth.
Conference, Gareth Thomas, Chair of the Co-op Party, Labour and Co-op MP for Harrow West. And thanks very much for the delegation from Harrow for that, Chair. Conference, I'm proud once again to bring you fraternal greetings from the Co-op Party. For the last 90 years, we've worked together to build a fairer Britain, one where power and wealth are shared more equally. Since we signed our electoral agreement back in 1927, we have been together through thick and thin. When the Co-op Party and the Co-op movement have faced challenging times, you have been there, standing in solidarity with us. Today we stand in solidarity with you, ready to work with you to fight for our shared values and our vision together of a better and fairer society. Let me take this opportunity then to congratulate Jeremy on his re-election as leader of the Labour Party. And to thank him, Tom Watson and many of you for your support in our Keep It Co-op campaign earlier this year. Conference, 2 years ago, I told you about the inspiring work of the world's biggest credit union, a financial cooperative called Navy Federal, which offers some of the best financial services in the US to the American Armed Forces, Navy SEALs, Army cooks, or veterans and their families. I asked why British service personnel didn't get the same support and instead were preyed upon by payday lenders offering interest rates of 3,000% or more to young soldiers just as they went into harm's way. The Co-op Party began with the strong support of your MPs, a concerted campaign to force the Tories to take an interest. And so finally, in October last year, 3 credit unions with official backing began offering responsible and affordable financial services to the brave men and women who make up our armed forces and their families. Now, just one of those credit unions recently announced that in just the first few months, they have made over £300,000 worth of affordable loans to service personnel. That's young men and women, families, veterans, no longer being forced into the hands of legal loan sharks. That is the cooperative difference in action. Indeed, the co-op movement was formed and has grown over the last 2 centuries to provide a real alternative to the broken markets and vested interests which work against the interests of ordinary working people. And never has there been a more glaring example of the need for such an alternative as in some of the social care provision we see today. 15-minute visits, a low-paid and exploited workforce, and faceless private companies profiteering from the needs of older and disabled people. And so at our conference 2 weeks ago, the Co-op Party published Taking Care, our radical alternative vision to the existing social care market. Now, we've long supported the election of employees onto company boards, which Theresa May now says she wants to support. Private sector social care providers would be the perfect place to start. That's why the Co-op Party are calling for a right to run, with carers, care recipients and their families having a guaranteed right to representation on the company boards of private sector care providers. Those who provide and rely on social care services have the knowledge and interest necessary to help deliver good quality, cost-effective care. The best way to align the interests and knowledge of those people is through the shared ownership of care services, with care providers that are owned and run by the very people who need them and their families, the care workers and the wider community. Now, we all know that the Tories' instinct is always to privatise public services. We say it's time to put the public back into public services and to mutualise social care services. Conference, we meet at a time of unprecedented uncertainty for our country's future. That vote to leave the European Union less than 4 months ago, with its now clearly false promises of extra money for the NHS, has exacerbated the sense of doubt about Britain's economic and social future. As internationalist parties, this was a vote that few of us wanted. We in the Co-op Party will certainly campaign for full access to the single market, an exercise in international cooperation that's good for British jobs and certainly good for co-op businesses. Take back control was Vote Leave's big rallying cry. And for many voters, Westminster can feel just as distant and unaccountable as Brussels. Together, we need to advance afresh the cause of redistributing both economic, social and state power away from Westminster, down to cities and regions, yes, but even more so to communities, to groups of citizens and employees, to help them work together to better shape and control their own futures. Now, there's been quite a bit of interest in the Co-op Party this summer. We've made it into the Sunday Times, onto the BBC, The Guardian, and The Independent. Even Reuters wanted to know about the Co-op Party. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of why there was such interest. Perhaps it's because it's our centenary next year. Or perhaps it's because of our plan to force companies to share a little of their profits with all their staff. Or perhaps it's because some in this party, on either side of the recent divide, think they can use us to further their own agenda. One of the great strengths of cooperation is that it transcends traditional political groupings. There are great proponents of the co-op ideal across the Labour family. And so we in the Co-op Party say to you, our brothers and sisters in the Labour Party, if you share our co-op values and principles, then please join us in our task of creating a more cooperative Britain. If you want to use our party for other ends, then you should think again. We will not tolerate entryism of any kind from any group. Next year is the Co-op Party's centenary year, as I've mentioned. We have had a rich recent history, legislated to make it easier to set up and expand co-op businesses, supported the rapid growth of credit unions, enabled the creation of hundreds of co-op schools, invented football supporters trusts and supporters direct, championed a new generation of energy co-ops, and rallied thousands of people behind our campaign for a people's BBC. Or there's the reforms in banking, housing, tax and land ownership that we've made the case for. But it's the future that really matters. So you'll be seeing and hearing more from the Co-op Party, more about our vision for building a cooperative economy that serves working people and rewards them with a fairer share of the growth that they help to create. More about how the new metro mayors and combined authorities can help achieve and drive sustainable local growth. More about how we build an education system which is based on the values of collaboration, not competition. And more too about our vision of an alternative to the broken housing market that draws on the brilliant work of Carl Wyn-Jones' Welsh Labour government and the new generation of housing cooperatives that they're helping to grow. So if you agree that cooperatives are a better way of doing business, if you believe in the power of people to come together to challenge vested interests and take control based on their shared interests, if you want to see public services like the railways, the utility companies and social care run in the interests of people, not profit, with employees and consumers at the heart of them, then join us. Join us to celebrate 100 years of achievement. But join us also to make the next century truly a cooperative century. Thanks very much, Conference.
Conference, just before we move on to the next debate, the General Secretary, Ian McNichol, had asked the exhibitors to remove all copies of The Sun from the lounge and this conference site when the complaint was made. The action has been taking place. If anyone sees anything, will you let us know? Conference, we now move on to the first business of the afternoon, and it's the debate on education and children. The Policy Commission annual report is on pages 14 to 18 of the National Policy Forum report, and the priorities issue document is on pages 60 to 66. We will also be taking the contemporary composite on grammar schools. I will now ask Jasmine Beckett to move the Policy Commission annual report on behalf of the NEC. Thank you, Jasmine.
Conference, Jasmine Beckett, NEC, moving the report from the Children and Education Policy Commission. For decades, we have known that education is the silver bullet that changes lives and makes our country richer and smarter. We should be proud that the last Labour government transformed our education system and changed the lives of millions of young people, including me. But Conference, we know there is much more to do, starting with fighting back against the Tories' agenda of elitism and division. Conference, in moving this report, I want to focus on one area that I believe Labour must put at the centre of our education agenda: personal, social, health and economic education, PSHE. One of the most important things we can teach children in schools is how to live a good life, stay healthy and protect themselves both on and offline. The internet and social media has fundamentally changed the way we live. We bank online, we shop online, we share pictures, stories, music, our opinions and our views. We can talk to our friends and family instantly, whether they are halfway across the world or in the next room. But with all of its opportunities and possibility, it has rapidly brought forward new challenges and problems that are felt most acutely by our youngest citizens. 1 in 10 children say they have been a victim of online bullying. One of the most effective ways we can help steer children through the pressures that didn't exist 50, 30, or even 10 years ago is through effective support and education in our schools. This is why we need good compulsory PSHE. But conference, the Tories have refused to make PSHE a compulsory subject in schools again. By doing this, they are ignoring 5 select committees, hundreds of MPs from all parties, the NSPCC, 6 Royal Medical Colleges, over 100 expert bodies, 88% of teachers, 90% of parents, and 92% of young people. Conference, it is clear that on this issue, the Tories are in the minority. The evidence and the experts tell us that good quality, age-appropriate PSHE gives children the tools to keep themselves safe. It can tackle issues such as early child exploitation, drugs and alcohol abuse, cyberbullying and radicalisation. Labour believes we need to help children navigate the modern world and help them make the right decisions that will keep them safe, which will keep them happy and, most importantly, healthy. Conference, the Tories are letting our young people down. It is our responsibility to build an electable Labour Party capable of winning a general election, so we can put PSHE at the centre of our education agenda and once again change the lives of our country's young people. Conference, I move this report.
Thank you, Jasmine. We will now take contemporary composite 10 on grammar schools to be moved by the Socialist Educational Association, and could Nottingham East CLP be ready to second?
Good afternoon, Conference, and good afternoon, Chair. I'm Sarah Williams, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Socialist Education Association to move Composite 10 on grammar schools. Conference, it seems a fitting way to begin by taking this opportunity to pay tribute to Ken Purchase, who sadly passed away last month. He was instrumental in setting up the parliamentary branch of the Socialist Education Association, an MP for Wolverhampton North East until his retirement in 2000. Ken was a fierce opponent of selective education. Conference, Theresa May and Justine Greening have announced plans to massively expand the number of grammar and other selective schools across England. They want to allow existing grammar schools to expand, allow multi-academy trusts and other groups to open new selective free schools, and allow existing non-selective schools to become selective. And although they would never say so publicly, they have de facto announced plans to massively expand the number of secondary modern schools across England. We will not only see the return of the 11+ and more high-stake testing for our very young primary school children, but additionally schools will now be selecting at 14 and 16. Experts are entirely united in opposing this policy. The OECD Education Division, the Education Policy Institute, Education Data Lab, the Fair Education Alliance, the Vice-Chancellor of Oxford University, and even Ofsted, Sir Michael Wilshaw, have slammed these divisive proposals. And why? Are they against success? Are they against social mobility? No, they are not. They are opposed to selective schools because all the evidence shows that children educated at grammar schools do no better than they would have done had they gone to a comprehensive. But those children in selective areas who do not pass the test do much worse academically than they would have done in an inclusive, comprehensive school. We started phasing out grammar schools in the 1960s as parents became increasingly upset when their children failed the test, leaving them scarred for life, feeling second class and second rate. What parent wants that for their child? And if we don't want it for our own children, why would we want it for other people's children? Conference, look at Kent, one of the country's few remaining grammar school areas, where children from low-income families get significantly worse examination results than in any other county in England. Grammar schools have on average 3% of children on free school meals compared to 18% nationally. They are stuffed with the children of those who can afford the years of tutoring necessary to pass the test. They have very, very few, if any, children with special educational needs and disabilities, but disgracefully, the government's Green Paper has absolutely not one word nothing at all to say about these children or the future they might expect from a selective education system. Kent and other selective areas let down thousands of children every year, and they've done it now for 50 years. This has to stop. Because Conference, poor children don't need a grammar school place. What they need is to stop being poor. 4 million children are living in poverty. That's 9 in every class of 30 children. And disgracefully, 2/3 of those children are from working families. We need a government committed to ending child poverty and the scourge of low pay. That means we need a Labour government. People have speculated as to why Theresa May has made this pernicious decision. Perhaps it's because it covers up the real crisis that is happening in our schools under the Tories. A crisis of teacher recruitment and retention. A crisis of funding with massive real-term cuts to school budgets and not enough places. A crisis that sees free schools opening in the wrong areas. A crisis where academy chains rip off taxpayers and the children in their schools by turning their backs on the children who are most in need, because academy chains won't risk their brand with a poor set of results. Yet despite this crisis, Theresa May is lavishing £50 million of our money on persuading existing grammar schools to expand. But by opening the floodgates to a new generation of grammar schools, the government is backing itself into yet another unnecessary and unwanted school reorganisation in England that will cost billions. While schools can't afford to keep teachers and teaching assistants or provide essential resources, it seems money is no object when it comes to carrying through a cynical policy to distract us and to appease the right wing of her own party. Conference, let me end by saying this. Had Ken Purchase been here today, he would be up on this rostrum urging you to support this motion and to fight for the high-quality, comprehensive and inclusive education all our children deserve. Conference, I move.
Thank you, Delegate.
Conference. Chair, Nick Raine, Nottingham East, delighted to be seconding Composite Motion 10, opposing the expansion of grammar schools and selection in education. I'm a first-time delegate and a first-time speaker to Conference. Thank you. I'd also like to say I attended a comprehensive school which set me up for life, and I'm very proud to have been a teacher for over 10 years in comprehensives in the East Midlands. On that, I'd like to begin by paying tribute to our teachers, all those who work in our school, but particularly our teachers, a group of dedicated professionals and experts who are never consulted, thanked or listened to by this government. This motion opposes grammar schools, but it could easily be worded to oppose the imposition of secondary modern schools, as Sarah's just said, on our children, on our teachers and on our communities, because this is what it is. It's a return to selection, segregation and division in both our schools and in our communities. It's a fantasy trip back to the past, back to the 1950s, an era before the Fab Four had even thought up Sergeant Pepper, before England had won a World Cup and before Anthony Crosland had become Secretary for Education. We're governed by a party who favours segregation and selection over solidarity and social justice. They're willing to sacrifice our children's education for a quick headline and a return to this fantasy past. Let's make it clear, Conference, by every possible measure of pupil achievement, comprehensive schools have been a success and they've served our children well. They're based on the ideas of inclusion, solidarity and social justice. These are Labour values, these are our values. It's why I became a teacher and I hope it's why people are sat here. Conference, the myth of a golden age of education is that it's a myth. It's never existed. As I've said, our comprehensives achieve far more than the grammar schools ever did in the past. And the mantra that selection will improve the life chances of disadvantaged children goes against all available statistical evidence. and it ignores many of our children. The recent education white paper, I don't know if people have read it, it was absolutely silent about children on special needs because they don't fit in with the regressive, divisive vision of education this government has. They don't appear to matter. Well, Conference, I can tell you they matter to me, they matter to the teachers, and they should matter to you. Our schools are facing significant challenges, as we've just heard. Fewer teachers, far fewer resources. And importantly, our cities and councillors desperately need the ability to properly plan for education. And we need to establish new schools that are accountable to the local community for the way they spend their money and the way they look after the pupils. Conference, we as a party supported comprehensive education and the ideals behind it. We need to send a message today to reject the politics of segregation, social exclusion and division. We need a school system for the 21st century, not the 1950s. Conference, I second this motion.
Thank you, Delegate. Well, waving at me. Let me say it first. We're now going to open the debate to the floor. And if we can take notice of our two speakers who went on time, and each of you say a little bit less, we'll get a few more people in. Okay, let me have a look. The guy there waving, is it an umbrella or? Yeah? I can't see. Where am I going? Let me have a look. A woman.
Green coat.
The woman with the black and orange scarf. Another one. The woman there in the red jacket, is it, if it's red, and I'll take some more later.
Good afternoon, Duncan Enright. I'm proud to be a first-time delegate from Witney and West Oxfordshire. Thank you. I'm also proud to have been adopted as the Labour candidate to replace David Cameron in Witney by-election. Thank you. And make a date. It's the 20th of October, and you're all invited. Through Cameron, you may have a distorted view of Witney as the home of privilege and the Chipping Norton set, but it isn't. We face the same inequality as the rest of the country: lack of investment, failing roads, cuts to buses, countryside and communities under threat from developers and landowners, cuts to the NHS, house prices out of control. And this is because of Tory councils, a Tory Lib Dem coalition and then a Tory government, a toxic combination. But we are fighting back. Over the last 5 years, Labour has won seat after seat on our councils, and we now have amazing councillors right across West Oxfordshire, all working in their communities. And since May 2015, and particularly since Jeremy Corbyn became our leader, our membership has grown hugely. And we now have many more members in Witney than the Conservatives, the Liberal Democrats, and in fact more than all of the other parties put together. And so we've never been in such a strong position to make a positive change to our towns and villages, just as well because these grammar school proposals are a disaster for us. Oxfordshire has no grammars. Instead, we have a network of brilliant comprehensive schools, like the comprehensive school I'm proud to have gone to. My own children go to Wood Green School in Witney, an excellent comprehensive, where my wife teaches English and I'm a governor. But the cuts in funding have bitten deeply, particularly into school support and sixth form funding. But grammar schools is another thing still. It would set school against school. It will involve introducing the 11+, a pointless, arbitrary and unfair segregation of friend from friend, brother from sister and neighbour from neighbour. It will turn our proud comprehensive high schools into secondary moderns. It will reduce choices in subjects and the curriculum. It will put our sixth forms at risk and lead to certain closures. It will imperil some of our neighbourhood schools and damage community links. It will lead to more busing of children across the district, which is a costly, divisive and wasteful activity. It will worsen teacher recruitment and retention crisis. It will overturn primary alliances and inter-school working to the detriment of our children. It will further stretch our worsening finances, and it will lower levels of achievement. Do we want that? No, we don't. Let me repeat that. The evidence shows it will lower levels of achievement. And that's why Oxfordshire County Council, led by our brilliant Labour group, but supported by others from all parties, including Tories, voted against segregation in our schools just last week. So let's get every local authority in England to follow suit. Contact Oxfordshire Labour to find out how and get it through your councils now. We cannot allow this segregation and disruption to happen. So join me in Witney in the by-election and let's use our campaign to stop this crazy proposal to divide our education system in its tracks, in Witney and across England. I support the composite. Thank you.
Conference. Barbara Plant, GMB, representing school support staff. Thank you. I am pleased to support this motion, especially as it ends with the word professionals, a term which includes all staff that work in schools. It's teachers and teaching assistants working with children every day who know the impact that testing and labelling of children's failures can have on a child's self-esteem. As a teaching assistant, I've sat next to pupils who are crying over a test. They don't know where to begin because they either have special educational needs or English is not their first language. This is not what education is about. All children deserve a high-quality education which doesn't separate them into those that can do and those that cannot do tests. The 11 Plus is just another test on children who are already tested too much in this country. Education should be inclusive, where children from all backgrounds and of all abilities socialise, play together and learn from each other. A generation of children risks being let down by a system that entrenches social division and stops mobility dead in its tracks. People talk about climbing the ladder, the social mobility ladder, but when inequality is growing, the gaps between the rungs are getting wider. Research has shown time and time again that areas with grammar schools disadvantage the poor and help only the very richest of children. I don't care that Theresa May went to a grammar school. Policy should be based on evidence. But for too long, we have seen too many Tory educational policy wins, from academies to free schools. We now have an unelected Prime Minister without a manifesto commitment bringing back grammar schools. It comes as no surprise that the Prime Minister has shown the Tories' real colours and is advocating an element of selection in schools. Theresa May likes to use phrases like parental choice, but there is no choice. Schools choose you. Communities deserve good, properly funded, local, comprehensive schooling for all children. If we want an inclusive and equal society, then it has to start with an inclusive and equal education system. Please support this motion.
Just before the next speaker, I'm going to choose another three. You are. The woman in the green there. Woman in the red, and then I'll pick a guy. The woman in the red there with a torch, I think, and the guy here. I'm coming back.
Ashley Dalton, Rochford and Southend East CLP, and first-time speaker at conference. Conference. There are 12 secondary schools in Southend, and 4 of them, a third, are grammar schools. So popular and successful are our grammar schools that the majority of children that attend them don't even live in Southend. Some children travel up to 30 miles from outside our town to come to those schools. Grammar schools and the wondering about whether or not your kids are going to go to one dominates the education culture in Southend-on-Sea. I've been a school governor in Southend for 10 years. And in those 10 years, I have seen absolutely no evidence that children do exceptionally well at our grammar schools. Only that our grammar schools will only accept children that they know will do exceptionally well. Conference. Every child, regardless of their academic ability, their postcode, or their parents' wealth, deserves to go to an outstanding school. But more grammar schools does not equate to more outstanding schools. All grammar schools deliver are more failing comprehensives. Theresa May thinks that grammar schools deliver excellent exam results. And on the surface of it, they do. But when every comprehensive in town has all the academically exceptional children siphoned off and sent elsewhere to school, you don't need an A-star in maths to work out that that's going to skew your exam result statistics. And it skews them for grammars as well as comprehensives. Theresa May claims that excellent grammar school results is causality, when in reality, Conference, it is nothing more than correlation, and you would think that a grammar school girl would know the difference. Tories have the audacity to suggest that their support for new grammar schools is about parent choice and about ending the practice of the wealthy enough moving specifically to get into an outstanding school. But Conference, no child in Southend chooses a grammar school. The grammar schools choose the children. Nobody in Southend moves because they need more grammar school places. They move because there is a shameful lack of outstanding comprehensive places. Grammar schools cherry-pick academically exceptional students at the age of 11. And perhaps not surprisingly...
I'm really sorry, you do need to wind up.
Okay.
There are a lot more want to speak in the debate.
Okay, absolutely. Conference. They believe that grammar schools are exceptional, but show me a comprehensive school that welcomes all the students from its community and supports every single one of them to reach their full potential. And that, Conference, is what I call an outstanding school.
Chair, Conference, Nicole Beresford from Derby, Unison, sorry about that. I'm here today to tell you about a Labour council that has likened itself to Margaret Thatcher. That council is Derby City Council, and how they are treating 2,700 people who work for them, school support staff, teaching assistants, admin workers, kitchen staff, caretakers, midday supervisors, and 200 of them travelled here today from Derby on their 7th week of action to appeal for your support, and I think they deserve our support. These are low-paid workers, mostly women, hit with salary cuts of as much as £6,000 a year. £6,000 a year. A quarter of their salary with no protection. All because, allegedly, the system has been made fairer. But what's happening is anything but. 2,700 staff moved on to term time only contracts, which means spending weeks and months of a year without pay, with rising debts and unable to make ends meet. School support staff are among the UK's lowest paid workers, yet they are paying the price of continued government spending cuts. The squeeze on finances from Westminster means that councils are operating within a financial straitjacket, but penalising some of the lowest paid workers in society is wrong, wrong, wrong. And it is not just the teaching assistants and other school support staff who suffer. Teachers couldn't teach without teaching assistants, and parents who know only too well the value of the work they do are horrified at the way they are being treated. And the children who rely on the workers to care for them, to support their learning, are bound to suffer. They deserve better than this. We deserve better than this. And it's not just happening in Derby, it is also happening in Durham, also a Labour council. Also hitting low-paid women with eye-watering pay cuts. Councils should not be hammering low-paid staff, not Tory councils and certainly not Labour councils. They need to think again or the strikes will continue. But this Tory government must also end the squeeze on school budgets and allow teaching assistants' pay to be negotiated nationally like teachers' pay. We need a national deal for school support staff with proper pay and conditions. They do so much for us and for our children. It is the very least we can do for them. Thank you, Conference.
Judy Wilson, Bristol West Labour Party, and first-time Speaker at Conference. Comrades, I'm delighted to speak in this debate as a motion on education was narrowly beaten in our constituency contemporary motion selection meeting. So this is for you, Jez. Let there be no mistake, the government's policy of forced academisation has failed to raise standards in education. Because we all know that investment in education raises standards in struggling schools, not arranging the classroom furniture or reprinting the stationery. Neither have free schools covered themselves in glory. The threat of going back to the unfair and unequal selection for education at a grammar school for the few smacks of desperation. And many Tory backbenchers also share our views on this. So we need to mobilise at all levels of our party. Speak loud and clear to local people in our communities, on the doorstep, in the town centre, and provide them with a voice to oppose this proposal. Work with trade unions that organise in schools. Work in Parliament with disaffected Tories and other political parties. In Bristol, we are starting this Saturday in the city centre. Conference, I know that you will support this composite, but will you go back and organise in your communities? Let's go back to our constituencies, mobilise our members and show the government what a Labour Party with more than 500,000 members can do. Thank you.
Just before the next speaker starts, I only have time for one more speaker. And so, on the basis of my own health and safety, I'm going to pick the guy with the hard hat, as long as he lets me have it after he speaks. The woman. Whoever's got the hard hat. No?
It's not for her.
Conference. Martin Bailey, Vauxhall CRP, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. I went to grammar school. I was born in a top 2% deprived area in Birmingham. Social mobility worked for me, but no, we do not need new grammar schools. It's taken me a long time to come to this conclusion, I'm not ashamed to admit. I, like Theresa May, I'm a product of a grammar school. On paper, I should be a poster child for the grammar school movement. Born in a statistically very deprived neighbourhood, a black boy from a single-parent household, yet here I am today, a Russell Group law graduate working in the City of London. Birmingham, for those not familiar, is full of grammar schools. At age 11, I took no fewer than 4 11-plus tests for various schools. Handsworth Grammar, a local grammar school to me, the school populace is 80% BME, 28% are on free school meals, in line with national average, and I wondered how could anyone argue that they're a bad thing. I looked at my friends, the boys at my school, the girls at the girls' school, and we were all doing well. We all went to university, we all pretty much have careers, and grammar school gave us choices. My mum always said she doesn't care whatever career I do as long as I choose to do it. And that's what my grammar school gave me, choices. I absolutely love my time there. I'm not going to pretend that I didn't. But I've realised as I get older, I look at friends and family members who've struggled, who didn't pass 11+, who didn't take the test, and actually realise there is a problem here. Birmingham grammar schools, whilst good at the fair smattering of kids from poorer households, it's safe to say they're overrepresented by kids that aren't. Kids from households whose parents, if they hadn't got into grammar school, could have sent them to private school, and probably would have. And also kids who you know for sure were coached within an inch of life to take that test. A local comprehensive in Birmingham, Holt School, 90% of the students don't have English as a first language, compared to a national average of 12%. 76% get free school meals, but they're an outstanding rated school now. In 2004, their GCSE results were just 17% 5A star to C grades. I used to feel sorry for the kids that went there, but now they're storming ahead of the national average, and they improve year on year. And it's taken a lot of hard work by parents, teachers, support staff, governors, community, Labour councillors, and new grammar schools absolutely threaten that success, diverting much needed resource in terms of money, teachers, and as well-performing pupils who help support the rest of their peers. And it gives schools like Holt a real possibility of falling back into the bad old days. For the few, from areas like mine, grammar schools worked. However, for most in my neighbourhood, they didn't and they don't. They take away precious resource from our comprehensive schools that need it, that serve our communities at large. In Lambeth, where I now live, where we don't have a single grammar school, every single one of our secondary schools are rated good or outstanding. And that's taken hard work by, again, our local community, our Labour council, to maintain that, and that could all be wiped away overnight. The fact that Tories have promised reserved free school meal places for qualifying kids show that they know at its heart it doesn't promote social mobility on this grandiose scale that it suggests. With Labour in government, we can promise a world-class education to every single child, not just those who can decipher what shape comes next in the pattern on a cold November morning in the middle of town. Conference support this motion.
Thank you, Delegate. Next speaker. Just kick the journalists over there.
Point of order. Chair. Point of order. Gentleman try to raise a point of order here.
Oh. Conference. I'm Zoe Mayu, delegate from Coventry South CLP, and I'd like to thank my colleagues over there for collecting me when I spectacularly disappeared from view. It wasn't a deliberate attempt to try and get on this stage, honestly. Okay, breathe. Suicide is the biggest killer of men under the age of 49, and for every suicide, there are 10 other men who have attempted suicide. That's a lot of children who are impacted by something happening to their fathers, to their uncles, to their stepfathers, or a significant male carer in their family. A review by the Samaritans in 2012 emphasised that middle-aged working-class men are at particularly high risk of suicide. Suicide happens because of unemployment, debt, breakdown in social and family relationships, and again, how are the children going to cope with this, particularly when we've got the pressures of an education service decimated by the Tories, and a historic culture of masculinity. And these are things we all know too well. In Coventry and across the West Midlands, we have seen unemployment, debt, and family breakdowns all rising as a direct consequence of this Tory government's continued austerity. But Conference, in Coventry, we are doing something about it. We have an initiative started by Alex Cotton, a mental health nurse, called It Takes Balls to Talk. It is targeted at men, primarily in sporting venues, to raise awareness of mental health support and reduce male suicide by encouraging men to talk about their feelings. We are telling men that talking about it is not a sign of weakness. It takes balls to talk. And Conference, I am proud that my own trade union Unite are part of this campaign, with others including local NHS services, local sports teams and voluntary organisations, including Coventry and Warwickshire Mind. Our Member of Parliament in Coventry North East, Colleen Fletcher, has sponsored an early day motion, It Takes Ball to Talk campaign in support of the male-targeted mental health awareness and suicide prevention campaign. This has the support of all 3 Coventry MPs, including my own Jim Cunningham. So what can you do? Conference, I am asking every person here to make sure that their MP has signed the early day motion supporting the Ball to Talk campaign. And say to anyone out there, you are not alone. There is support, and our movement is one of solidarity. It takes balls to talk. Thank you, Conference, for allowing me to speak.
Delegates, I've got a point of order.
Hello, Tom Lang, Wallasey CLP. Point of order was that we had a former MP, we had me, who's a young person currently in education, and even a man who we've had the experience of former going to a grammar school when he was younger over there. The chair deliberately looked in that direction, but no speaker from that end of the room was chosen. Thank you very much.
Just to tell you, we had 7 speakers, 2 from trade unions, 5 from CLPs. It wouldn't be possible to take somebody from the 2 nations and the 9 regions. That would have been 11 in the debate. We try and have a balance of that. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does, but there isn't enough time. Listen. The debate has finished. You've raised your point of order. I've given you an explanation. I'm now going to move on. The last thing I would say on that point, though, there is a seminar at 4 o'clock today that you might want to go and feed the points in that you would have made in a speech. Okay. Now, delegates, I'm very pleased to welcome Angela Rayner, the Shadow Secretary of State for Education and the Shadow Minister for Women and Equalities. Thank you, Angela.
Good afternoon, Conference. It's an honour for me to stand before you today as the Shadow Secretary of State for Education. To some, it is a surprise. Some Tories look down their noses at me because, as you can hear, I wasn't born with a plum in my mouth. I get snobbery too from pundits and commentators, from hate-filled trolls on social media. Some of the Tories say, she left school at 16. She doesn't have a university degree. What does she know about education? Well, I say, I might not have an academic degree, but I have a master's in real life. Conference, I understand that every parent wants the best for their child, because I want the best for my children too. And I tell you, as a northern working class mum, I won't accept anything less for my children and for your children. Conference, I left school at 16 pregnant and with no qualifications. Some may argue I was not a great role model for today's young people. The direction of my life was already set. But you know what, Conference? Something happened. Labour's Sure Start Centres gave me and my friends and our children the help and support that we needed to grow and develop. They changed the lives of 3 million children and their parents. The Tories have now closed more than 800 Sure Start centres, and there's more to come, shutting the door in the faces of our children and their parents. Conference, unlike the Tories, Labour will never turn our backs on our children and their families. We'll never put political dogma before the ambition of every parent to do their best for their children. Because, Conference, excellent childcare changes lives for the better, as it did for my eldest son Ryan and for my 2 youngest boys, and for me. That's why I'm proud to announce today Labour's new childcare task force to help us transform early years provision for every family in the 21st century. And I'm absolutely delighted that Liz Snape, the Assistant General Secretary of Unison, has agreed to chair that task force, working with Labour's shadow educational team and childcare experts. Our aim will be to provide the care and support for every child to fulfil their potential and to help parents back to work. Access to affordable, high-quality childcare and early years learning is one of the most effective drivers for social mobility. Conference, getting it right will improve the life chances of countless children across the country. That must be our mission. Conference, the new Prime Minister has talked a lot about a meritocracy. It's a pity she didn't appoint her cabinet on merit, though. But Conference, if Theresa May is talking about meritocracy, let me tell her that every single child has merit. That is why I will fight with every breath in my body against the new grammar schools. Conference, she's not produced a single scrap of evidence that grammar schools can help social mobility. Selection, or segregation, as it should be called, entrenches division and increases inequality. And Conference, it's not just me who says this. The Institute of Fiscal Studies, the Chief Inspector of our schools for Ofsted, the National Association of Head Teachers, and even those well-known socialists at the Times and the Spectator agree. Even David Cameron called it completely delusional. So, Conference, what about the children segregated after failing the 11+? What do they say? 19-year-old Eleanor is amongst the many who have written to me, and she said, "The deeply damaging effect that the 11+ had on my self-esteem and my confidence has still not left me. I was marked with the stigma of going to a stupid school, a secondary modern. I was surrounded with bright and capable children, children who could have excelled and yet believed ourselves to be failures." Conference, this government is telling fairy tales about social mobility and opportunity. Selection is toxic. It tells the clever child that they're stupid, strips the child of self-esteem and embeds inequality. Every child has potential and every child can succeed, and no child should be left out or left behind. Conference, you've heard it before. Tony Blair talked about education, education, education. Theresa May wants segregation, segregation, segregation. And Conference, our party, our Labour Party, will fight it, starting on Saturday when we launch our nationwide campaign against more grammar schools. We're going to take the fight to the Tories. And Conference, I appeal to everyone, all of my Labour colleagues, to help lead this fight, because together we can defeat this. But Conference, we must also deal with the failings in our existing school system. Every academy and free school must be fully accountable to the local communities they serve. No Conference, no more fat cat paychecks to consultants and self-appointed bureaucrats. Every single penny spent on providing the best education for all our children. The Prime Minister has said nothing about the 500,000 children in classes which are far too big, or about the crisis in teacher recruitment and retention, or the deep cuts in the school budgets for the first time in nearly 2 decades, 20 years. Tory dogma causing untold damage. Conference, as someone who relied on further education after I left school, I know it can develop people into active, engaged, achieving citizens. That's why I'm proud that we have pledged to bring back educational maintenance allowance for students in further education. Because Conference, we know that EMA helps young people to stay in education and to get better grades. And Labour will also bring back maintenance grants for low and middle income students. It's an absolute national scandal that students graduate today with £44,000 in debt. £44,000. The current system is in absolute chaos and we need to sort it. Conference, our aim must be to make higher education affordable and accessible to all. But Conference, we must also recognise that university is not always the right place for every teenager. I want to see a Labour government put as much effort into expanding technical, vocational education and meaningful apprenticeship as we did with higher education. With our country facing a massive skills gap, we need to equip our young people with the expertise and the abilities that Britain needs. So the snobbery about vocational education must end. Conference, no matter what people say, Labour is the party of social mobility, helping everyone to get on in their life, reaching their full potential. We are the party of comprehensives, of the open university. It was us, Labour, that founded that, bringing opportunity to all. We are the party of access to the best education for all, enabling every child to go as far as their talents and their ambition can take them. These are the values that we all hold dear. One party, united, one Labour.
Angela, thank you for that wonderful contribution to conference. Delegates, we now move on to the energy debate, and we have the contemporary composite on energy to be moved by the GMB. And could Cities of London and Westminster CLP be ready to second? Thank you.
Conference, Gary Smith, GMB, moving composite 8 on energy. Conference, our country is facing a crisis in energy. It's a crisis of leadership and it's a crisis of ambition. Sorry.
If you're leaving the hall, can you do it quietly, please, and show some respect to the delegate that's speaking now? Thank you.
Thank you. Conference, for too long, too many supposed leaders have dodged the complex but crucial questions about how we keep the lights on both today and into the future. How we do that in an affordable way at the same time as tackling the critical threat of climate change. And we have suffered because time and time again, short-term political choices have won out over long-term national interests. It's happened before, and it's happening again now. Take a look at the Tories and their shambles around energy policy. Building a new nuclear power station at Hinkley Point has been on the cards for years. The electricity generated here will be a key component of the power we will need for decades to come. Quite simply, Conference, without Hinkley Point, someone's lights are going out. That could be you, your family, your local hospital or school. It's that crucial to our national supply. Well, it seems, Conference, that Theresa May didn't get the memo. When the industry wanted certainty and action, what do we get? Dithering and delay. The future of thousands of workers up and down the country, both those working on the project and those in the supply chains, were suddenly put at risk. And it was George Osborne, no friend of ours obviously, but it was George Osborne who called it when he said, it's a wobble. Well, Mrs May, if you're a Prime Minister, you don't get the luxury of a wobble. You must know what you're doing, what's right for our country, and get on with it. That's what's called leadership. Conference, Britain needs investment in energy and a strategic plan for the sector. Instead, what we have is a shabby mess. How can it be right that while the French government sees value in investing in the UK's energy infrastructure, our own government has allowed our power stations, our electricity cables, our gas pipelines to be flogged off to foreign investors? That's not a planned conference, it's a betrayal of our national interest. And conference, it's the same mess with renewables which have such a vital part to play in the energy mix, with the potential to provide new jobs and training in working class, deindustrialised areas. But devoid of an industrial strategy, the renewable sector is a story of missed opportunities and jobs lost, where we see German and Danish manufactured wind turbines being brought over on Dutch barges and connected with Chinese cables. Will you tell me, conference, how that helps the workers in Scotland that I represent? And conference, I do have to tell you that we as a movement do need to tackle the issue of how we fund the important renewables sector. Because the truth is, at the moment, renewable subsidies are a flat tax on all our bills. And that means the poorest are hit hardest, subsidising big energy, the hedge funds and the Austrian Viscounts who own our wind industry. And that, conference, is against everything that we stand for. Conference, I'm a proud member of our union, GMB, a union formed by gas workers. And I myself started as an apprentice as a gas fitter at 16. Gas will remain a central part of the energy we use in this country for decades to come. The truth is, over 80% of our homes are heated by gas because gas is 4 times cheaper than electricity. The people of our country need and depend on gas. Manufacturing and our chemicals industries can't operate without it. And so we do have to confront difficult questions about where we get our gas from. Carting gas across oceans and continents, and the first shale gas is arriving today in Scotland from America. Carting gas across oceans and continents is not good for the environment. And buying it from regimes, and buying gas from regimes with an appalling record on human rights and the environment cannot be ethical either. So, conference, instead of posturing about individual sources of supply, we need a proper, grown-up national conversation about energy. For me and my union, this means using all options: gas, nuclear power, carbon capture and storage, and renewable sources as part of a balanced energy policy. And you know, conference, other countries are getting it wrong. Germany's decision to move away from nuclear may have delighted some, but the truth is, and the result is, CO2 emissions are going up because renewables on their own can't replace all the power that was lost. We have in Germany them burning the dirtiest coal instead, an absolute disaster
Delegate,
for the
I'm
fight
really
against climate
sorry,
change.
But can you wind up, please?
I'm sorry.
Thank
Conference, Labour has a historic opportunity to show the British people, but we are the ones who can develop the leadership and ambition to develop a balanced energy policy. Support the motion. I move.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is William Pimlott and I'm a first-time delegate and first-time speaker from City of London, Westminster. It is a delight to second this motion to try and put the environment on the agenda. And I want to put it on the agenda for 3 reasons. First of all, because climate change impacts the most vulnerable people all across the world. I think it's crucial that we start to lead the conversation in Britain on changes that really impact people who are the most vulnerable in the most difficult situations, both abroad and here in Britain. We need to make it so that the environment is a Labour issue and that it's a key Labour policy. And the energy policy can also be a positive thing. If we develop an energy policy which has lots of renewable components, that can lead to building more jobs and good jobs, which will be better for the economy. This is a contemporary motion, because when we first drafted the motion at the City of London Labour branch, we were aware that although the USA and China had ratified the motion, Theresa May still hadn't. So although she has since said she's going to ratify it, this motion calls on her to ratify it immediately. We need an international, serious approach to tackling this, and after Brexit, we can't just sink into an island mentality. We need to believe in cooperating to solve the environmental crisis. And then the third reason I think this is a really important motion and that environment and a reasonable energy policy should be on the agenda is because people care about the environment. People talk about it, and it's a really important issue. So I'm glad that this motion brings that to the conversation. And last of all, with my City of London Labour branch hat on, I have to mention the local elections that we're facing next March. These are the only local elections happening in London, and we had the first ever City of London councillor in 2013. So we're going to take the fight to the Tories in the City of London, and of course that is also going to have responsible energy politics. Thank you.
Conference, I now only have time for 2 speakers in this debate, and I'm going to go over there, then I don't get myself into trouble. So the lady there and the lady there with the, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Conference. Gail Cartmel, Unite, speaking in support of Composite 8 on energy. Conference, this motion rightly condemns the government for its failure to build a cohesive energy policy. And it also calls for a plan that balances environmental concerns with the need to tackle fuel poverty as well as job security and creation. Conference Unite supports investment in renewable energy and condemns government cuts in support to the renewable sector. And Unite, with many others, supports a balanced energy policy that provides security of our energy supply, and this includes investment in carbon capture and storage and nuclear. Conference, Unite produced a campaigning document, Meeting the Climate Challenge, and it sets out what we want, a just transition, not just words, but an implementation that recognises our role as a trade union is to protect and support our members, their families and communities linked to the industries affected. Conference, after the government's dithering, the decision to approve the go-ahead for Hinkley Point has been made, and it's ended a period of agonising uncertainty. And Unite members are keen to start work in the country's first nuclear power station for generation, and it will herald an economic boost for the West Country, creating thousands of skilled jobs, including 500 much-needed apprenticeships in the construction phase alone. Young men and Conference, yes, young women apprentices promised good quality apprenticeships and the opportunity to earn while they learn. And let's not forget the role that this project and others can play in respect of much needed infrastructure investment in the UK to support other parts of our economy. We and Labour will press the government, EDF and the contractors to make maximum use of British-made materials such as British steel so that the benefits flow into the wider UK economy. Unite and other trade unions involved secured a groundbreaking and binding agreement for decent working conditions and employment practices. And importantly, conference, including transparent employment so that any suspicion of blacklisting can be nipped in the bud. And conference, just to depart from my speech for a moment, just this morning I received a letter from a Croatian brother in an energy-related construction site, forced to hand over half of his pay, and he wrote, "I was not the member of your trade union because my employers did not allow that. It was forbidden for us. Employer told us if we became members of trade union, we're going to lose our job and we're going to be fired." And he apologised, conference, for his English. But he didn't have to apologise, because do you know what? In this hall we speak his language, and it's called solidarity. And it was that solidarity that won for our Bulgarian and Portuguese workers equal pay when our Unite members at Fawley Oil Refinery got them £48 from £48, finishing now, to £125 backdated. That's solidarity, so we want a fair deal for all. Thank you, conference.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you, conference. I'm going to be quite controversial here because I cannot support this. I'm sorry. We have pledged to secure our environment by using our National Investment Bank to invest in public and community-owned energy schemes. We cannot go down the nuclear route if we are to back this up, and this is where the jobs of the future will be created. We will deliver clean energy and curb energy rises for households, energy for the 60 million and not the big 6. The government has dithered about Hinkley Point, we know that, and now it's been given the go-ahead. That does not mean it will go ahead. We know what happens in the nuclear industry. When has any nuclear project ever kept within a projected budget or projected timescale? Also, it will take so long that by the time it does come on, it will be out of date. August 2016, Windscale Sellafield nuclear plant decommission clean-up costs are estimated to be 70 billion. That's now, and they're escalating every year. Then there's still no definitive plan on how we're going to get rid of the waste or store the waste for hundreds of years, which it'll need. Renewable energy around the planet now in several countries is at 100%. Costa Rica, 100%. Denmark, 40% all the time. 140% regularly. Lower Austria, 100%. Orkney Islands, 100%. Germany, most days, 78% from renewable energy. What are we thinking of? Well, we invest in renewables, and also North Sea gas, there's still 30 years left of North Sea gas. It just needs investment. That can run alongside our renewable programme. We've pledged to ban fracking, and any proposals to develop gas and carbon capture is going against our commitments to climate change. It is not used in other countries, carbon capture, because it's so expensive. It is so expensive. Our long-term energy needs are tidal power. Tide goes in, tide goes out. Solar power, air source power, ground source power, wind power, hydro power. How much water have we got in this country? It will create tens of thousands of those jobs, those transitional jobs. But they'll be spread across the country. They'll be in every community with community energy schemes. We can go 100% renewable. We can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, delegates. Conference, I am now delighted to introduce the man who beat an incumbent against the odds in May to become Mayor of Bristol. Conference, please welcome Marvin Rees.
Thank you very much for a really warm welcome. So, conference, Bristol has consistently been voted one of the best places to live. It's a city full of green space, a vibrant culture known for its colourful houses, grand bridges, hot air balloons and Banksy. And it is a great city. It's a wealthy city. All this is true. But that's not the whole truth. There is another Bristol, one that tourists and even some of our citizens never see, the city of poverty and inequality. 42 areas listed among the 10% most deprived in England. 16% of our residents living in deprivation. A 9-year life expectancy difference between our richest and our poorest communities. Bristol West has among the highest numbers of PhDs per head, while Bristol South has one of the lowest rates of young people going on to higher education. Bristol is not unique in these challenges. They're national and they affect all cities. But this is the injustice and the liability that a Labour leadership in a city can take on. I will lead the city for every citizen and build a city where nobody is left behind. Thank you. A city of opportunity built on fairness and inclusion. A resilient city, both environmentally and socially, where social mobility rather than social immobility is the norm, and educational outcomes and employment opportunities are not determined by parental background. At the core of my delivery will be housing. I've promised to build 2,000 homes a year by 2020, with at least 800 of these affordable. I've also committed to investing. It's all right. I've also committed to investing in the mental health of all primary age school children to build resilience and to tackle the race and gender pay gap. But here's a challenge, that the dominant political narrative in the UK has been centrally focused on Westminster and London. But that is shifting. People are increasingly realising that cities are real. It's cities who are often the immediate power shaping people's lives. The impact of city government is too easily misunderstood and undervalued in our country, even by us. But if you look closely, you can see Labour in power. There are 10 core cities outside of London, and Labour leads all of them. Bristol, obviously, Glasgow, Birmingham, Nottingham, Leeds, Sheffield, Newcastle, Cardiff, Manchester, and of course, obviously here in Liverpool. 19 million people live in these city regions, and together we deliver a quarter of the national economy. For 2020, or whenever the election is, our party will be judged not only on what the National Party does in opposition, but on what Labour cities do in power. So this makes devolution a key challenge and an opportunity for Labour. Devolution is crucial to giving city leaders the space, the resources, and the powers they need to get things done. And it's a pathway to investment in the city infrastructure and to bring politics closer to people. In recent months, I've visited Washington, D.C. with Operation Black Vote. I spoke to the gathering of the US Black Mayors. I visited New York City and met with Mayor Bill de Blasio. I attended the Global Parliament of Mayors. And one thing is clear, that the city leaders around the world, including mayors, are saying that cities are not merely a topic to be discussed. We are a layer of governance, and we need our place at the decision-making tables, the space to forge partnerships with cities and other bodies around the world to operate effectively in a post-national world. We're doing things differently in Bristol. We know the council cannot deliver working alone. The complex issues that matter, from congestion to sustainable development to how we do economic development without gentrification, can only be tackled by all city organisations working together towards shared priorities. So we've connected with the other powers in my city, with business, with our unions, with the NHS, with our emergency services, with the education sector, with sports organisations and the voluntary sector. Our ultimate aim is to work together to write a Bristol plan, a plan for the whole city that all partners invest in and deliver collectively. to take a strategic approach to the city's priorities and to identify both what you can do for your city, but more importantly, what the city can do for you. We found a real thirst for engagement, for this type of engagement in Bristol. Organisations across the public, private and voluntary sector want to be involved. They want a place in city leadership. Our city government has for too long seen itself as a provider of services rather than what we are and what we need to increasingly become, an enabling organisation, a force to bring the city together. And I just want you to be sure that you leave here today knowing that Labour is in power, and working with you, we will deliver. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Conference, and thank you, Marvin, for that speech. We now move on, and I'll now ask Jonathan Ashworth to address us. Welcome, Jonathan.
Well, it's a pleasure and a daunting pleasure, actually, to speak from the same podium from which Angela Rayner and Marvin Rees have just given inspirational, superb speeches, Conference, isn't it? So I will not be able to match their eloquence, I can tell you. But I first came to the Labour Party conference in 1996. I was 17, a working-class son of a Salford casino croupier who was active in the GMB section of the casino branch. And I was a steward on the door, checking the passes to this conference hall, or the conference hall in Blackpool as it once then. Well, today I am honoured, privileged, proud that 20 years later I'm here at this conference as a member of your shadow cabinet. And it's a great responsibility and a duty that I will uphold by doing all I can, as I know you will too, to secure our party victory at the next general election. Now, last year our leader, Jeremy, asked that I work with all of you on our campaigns against the Tory government. Back then, David Cameron was Prime Minister. George Osborne was Chancellor. Ian Duncan Smith, you remember him? He was the Pension Secretary. They wanted to cut benefits for disabled people. They wanted to slash tax credits for millions of families. Well, Conference, we said no, we fought back, we defeated them. And doesn't that show you what we achieve when fully effective in Parliament, united, working together, taking on the Tories and in touch with our constituents, Conference? Now we have a new Prime Minister and a new Cabinet. And they like to tell us, this is their quotes, I promise, that they are the friends, quotes, of ordinary working-class people. Fine words, but it's by their deeds they shall be known. Because a Prime Minister and a Cabinet who have an economic policy to slash public services, cut support for those on lower and middle incomes to fund tax cuts for the very rich, a Prime Minister who appoints David Davis as Brexit Minister, a man who branded the social chapter job-destroying, a Prime Minister who brings back Dr. Liam Fox, a man who called the minimum wage a mistake. Well, Conference, a Prime Minister who appoints Dr. Fox and Mr. Davis is no friend of ordinary working-class people. Of course, not all the ministers have changed, of course. Jeremy Hunt is still there. A man who hasn't met a junior doctor we won't pick a fight with? Well, conference, a Prime Minister who keeps in place Mr Hunt is no friend of the National Health Service. And by the way, Dr Fox, David Davis, and you, Boris, don't think we've forgotten. You promised us £350 million a year for our National Health Service. Get on and deliver it, or have the grace to admit you lied to the British people. Now the Prime Minister also likes to talk, have you heard this one, of compassionate conservatism. Have you heard that one? Well, it's not compassionate, it's not fair, it's not on the side of the many to divide children at 11, branding thousands of them failures. Parents want the very best for every child, not the return to the 11+. So, conference, as Angela said, we will not yield, we will not equivocate, we will fight these Tory grammar school plans every step of the way. So whatever the rhetoric, the reality of the Tories in government is clear. Slower growth, more cuts, no plans for Brexit, an NHS in crisis, the climate change department scrapped, rising poverty, the return of the 11+, fixing constituency boundaries, attacks on trade unions. Well, they can change the person at the top. They can appoint a new cabinet, but it's completely clear to us it's still the same old nasty Tory party, and we'll take them on at every turn. So, look, we've got a job of work to do, because we speak for those who have no voice. We remember those too often forgotten, and we offer an approach grounded in the realities in which people live their lives. We challenge the fundamental unfairnesses of an economy that excludes far too many from collective wealth. We seek a society built around human needs and human wants, where for investment in housing, in infrastructure, in education, we tackle the savage inequalities that scar our society. We don't meekly accept that 900,000 of our fellow citizens in work should have to rely on 0 hours contracts. And we don't tolerate an economy where men and women who do work full-time, still on the way home from work, have to pick up a food parcel from a food bank to feed their family. So this week, as John McDonnell said yesterday, we reaffirm a very simple principle that this movement has long stood for. When men and women work for a living, they should be paid a genuine living wage. And when confronted with abuses like we've seen at Sports Direct, and I pay tribute to Unite, or indeed the abuses we've seen at Samworth's in Leicester, where I've been working with the Bakers Union, we don't just shrug our shoulders like the Tories do. We don't abdicate responsibility. We say there is a fairer way. We'll ensure every working man and woman the dignity, respect and the rights they deserve. And because we all know that housing deprivation drives so much of the grotesque inequality we see around us, the Tories spend £9 billion a year lining the pockets of private landlords. It doesn't work. Isn't it time, as we have committed, to start building council houses to again provide decent homes for everybody who needs one? And our crusade for social justice doesn't stop at our borders. We deliberately, quite consciously, align ourselves with some of the poorest of the world and their struggles. So we have a warning for Theresa May. We've seen who you've appointed to DFID. Well, we will not acquiesce in any attempts to cut development spending and betray some of the very poorest people of the world. And we also speak firmly against large-scale tax avoidance, because when governments tolerate tax avoidance, it's ordinary people, public services and the world's poor who pay the price. So rather, Rather than closing Sure Start centres, let's start closing tax loopholes. Instead of cracking down on our public services, crack down on tax havens and deliver tax justice for the poorest of the world once and for all. And we, now, friends, we're in the Labour Party because we all dream of a better world, and crucially, we know a better world is possible. And as one of my favourite poets said, in dreams begins responsibilities. So when this conference ends, our responsibility is to scatter across our communities, speak to people, listen to people, and ensure this party is elected for the people. And our responsibility also is to unite, conference. And that means remembering that our opponents, whatever's happened, our opponents don't wear red Labour rosettes. Our opponents wear blue, green, yellow, purple rosettes, and that's who we need to focus on. And as Dave Prentice said yesterday, every great progressive reform ever put on the statute books was because of this party winning elections. And that's why this last year I've travelled 5,000 miles campaigning with you on the doorstep, listening to people in your communities. And when we talk to people, it's clear they don't just want sympathy for their plight. They want us in government to change their lives. Like the man in Southampton I met, who fears he will lose his family home, where he grew up, where he brought up his children, because of the Tory party's pay-to-stay tenant tax. I've met students, as we all have, shackled by huge debts, or the pensioners I met in Hucknall in Nottinghamshire, struggling to pay the electric, and who are worried for their grandchildren, who can't afford or can't find decent, secure jobs. Or the man in my Leicester constituency, who has serious health problems. He was disallowed ESA, he was sanctioned on JSA, lost his home and had to sleep rough in the local park. In their names, and thousands like them, let's pledge ourselves to united effort, to rebuilding, to winning, to seek that brighter and better day. In their name, keep the faith with our Labour values. Leave the sneers and slurs to our opponents. So yes, in dreams begin responsibilities. Optimism always defeats despair. And for the country and the people we serve, I will never give up. We will never give up. Labour never gives up. Thank you.
Jonathan, you started by saying you weren't as inspirational, but I think you did it for us here. Absolutely wonderful speech. Brilliant. Thank you. Conference, we now move on to our final speaker of the day. I'm pleased to welcome the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, Tom Watson.
Hello, conference. Thank you. Hello, conference. Thank you for being here in this great city at this historic gathering of the greatest movement for social change our country has ever known. It's a privilege to address you. Thank you. Now, I better get the difficult stuff out of the way. Saturday's result. Whatever you think of that man, whatever he's done, how can Ed Balls be bottom of the leaderboard on Strictly Come Dancing? Now, Strictly, of course, is a hotbed of media-obsessed prima donnas and harsh critics slating your every move. You'd think that after a decade in Parliament, Ed would have done better than that. Disappointing, Ed, to be honest. Whereas I have always aimed to be outstanding in my field. Except when, at quite a critical point this year, I was just out standing in a field. Meanwhile, the Lib Dems are trying to get back onto the field, of course, pitching to our supporters. Tim Farron's been telling people that only the Lib Dems can provide strong opposition. Well, Tim, I do admire your ambition. But, mate, you've only got 8 MPs. You couldn't be the strong opposition in a baton-twirling contest. And as for Theresa May, well, on some issues, I've got time for her. This isn't a joke, by the way, it's the serious bit. As Home Secretary, during my campaign for the truth on child sexual abuse, she tried to do the right thing. And if she really does force an inquiry into the conduct of South Yorkshire Police at Orgreave, she won't just have my support, she'll have the whole Labour movement behind her on that one issue. And she deserves recognition for becoming Britain's second woman Prime Minister. We can't afford for that to be something the Tories keep doing, but we don't. A Labour woman Prime Minister is long overdue. So, Conference, I bear Mrs May no ill will. In fact, to be honest, I feel a little bit sorry for her. She's like a Lib Dem manifesto pledge. She's been abandoned. David Cameron has created the biggest political, financial and diplomatic mess in modern British history, and he's just walked away to write his £1 million memoirs. Working title, Eton Mess. And poor Theresa's left there, wondering where everybody went. I'd like to be able to tell you that Britain is safe in her hands, that the savage cuts and the falling wages and the exploitative work practices are behind us. That now, as others have said, we have a grown-up in charge. But I'm afraid I can't. I've seen up close what it takes to be a Prime Minister, and I've seen what it takes out of you. And Theresa May hasn't got what it takes. Hinkley Point, as Gary Smith said, it was on, it was off, it was still off, then it was on again. This is an enormous national infrastructure project involving a French government firm and £6 billion of Chinese investment. It's not a game. And grammar schools. First they were an ambition, then a cast iron guarantee, then a consultation. At PMQs, when Jeremy asked her to set out her principles behind a plan, she dodged him. When he challenged her to provide evidence it would boost social mobility, she ducked him. When he demanded to know which experts backed her, she weaved away from him. Ducking and diving, humming and hawing, it's not what you want from a Prime Minister. On the Northern Powerhouse, Heathrow, the single market, the best system of firm but fair immigration, time and time again, we've seen the same shambolic prevarication. Theresa May, or Theresa may not. Who knows? But everyone knows. But everyone knows you can't run a country like that. Now, Conference, it will take time. Those press barons will be on her side for now. But if we stay focused and disciplined and determined, then gradually the country will see what we can already see, that she just isn't up to the job. Think about this. Theresa May has no mandate from the voters. She has no mandate from the members of the Conservative Party. She doesn't even have a mandate from a majority of her own MPs. Nobody has voted for Theresa May to be Prime Minister. And that's a pretty flimsy basis on which to try and hold the Tories together, never mind the country. And yet the global issues we face are so huge and complex. Syria, the refugee crisis, Brexit, ISIS, challenges to test the most experienced leader. But ask yourselves this question. Who would look into the bloody labyrinth of Syria and the desperate plight of Europe's huddled masses and conclude this time of crisis calls for just one man? Get me Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson. Hillary Clinton's famous test was, who do you want answering that red emergency phone at 3 a.m? I dread to think what Boris Johnson is up to at 3 a.m. And the Tories tell us we're not serious about national security. He's a bounder and a joker, but these are serious issues. So let me be clear. We're an internationalist party. Our collective principles extend across national boundaries. The Labour family is a global family. On Brexit, we will respect the views of the British people, but we will not let Theresa May and her colleagues hide behind the British people. Mrs May, you're the Prime Minister. You say Brexit means Brexit, but nobody knows what that means. It's a clever soundbite, but a cowardly one. You can't duck this responsibility. People want to know that their jobs and livelihoods are safe, that their pay and conditions won't be worn away. They want to know what's happening with immigration. Don't play words games with our future, Mrs May. It seems like every day brings new things we weren't told in the referendum. Visas to visit Europe now, imported inflation, fear and uncertainty for those EU citizens who've made their lives here, and a new European army that we're not part of, something the UK's always previously blocked, but which we can't block anymore. While Donald Trump wants the USA to look at pulling out of NATO. So, Mrs May, where does that leave the defensive alliance that's kept Europe safe for 70 years? Well, it leaves Labour reaffirming our commitment to NATO, a socialist construct, as our defence spokesman Clive Lewis reminded us yesterday, and trying to persuade our EU colleagues to do the same, and having the same conversation with the Americans. And what's the PM's answer to these intricate new uncertainties? Brexit means Brexit. Well, thanks. On Monday, John McDonnell and Emily Thornberry announced that in government, Labour would replace EU regional funding beyond 2020, bringing vital certainty to so many voluntary sector and academic institutions worried about their survival. Labour clarity compared to Philip Hammond's mealy-mouthed hedges and half-promises. Effective opposition, showing the Tories up for the charlatans they are. If I'm honest, though, it hasn't always felt like that this summer. These haven't been the best few months of my 30 years in the Labour Party. We can't afford to keep doing this. And more importantly, the country, the people we stand for, the millions the Tories leave behind every day, they can't afford us to keep doing this. I'm sure there's going to be an early general election. The more often Theresa May says it won't happen, the more certain I am that it will. And comrades, we need to be ready. We need to stand together as one Labour movement, millions strong and utterly united. Let's get behind John Trickett as he masterminds our election campaign. Let's put our differences aside, link arms with our brothers and sisters in Labour, turn and face the Tories and fight. It's time for Labour to get back to business, time to get the band back together. We've got to get back on the phones, out on the doorstep, using our excellent new canvassing app, by the way. And we've got to start And we've got to start listening to voters again. We owe the British people, our people, an alternative to a government that doesn't care and a Prime Minister they didn't vote for. You keep hearing that Labour can't win. Well, we can, and we will. And I'll tell you how we're going to win. We're going to win through local government, because that's how we always win. Our councillors... Our councillors are the engine of Labour's electoral machine. It's Labour councillors all over the country who are our leaders and ambassadors in local communities. Our councillors and our trade unions. These are the rocks our movement's built on. Always have been, always will be. And only next May, we're going to fight tooth and nail to win councillors across our shire counties. And we're going to win mayoral elections in Greater Manchester, the West Midlands and Liverpool City region to match that spectacular victory won in London by Sadiq Khan. What a champion he is. What an outstanding representative of our great national capital and our historic Socialist Party. Still relevant, resonant, and winning elections in one of the most dynamic cities on earth. Indeed, indeed. And in Bristol, we've got Marvellous Marvin, who you've just heard from. What a hero. And our great other conurbations next May. Andy Burnham, Sean Simon and Steve Rotherham are going to follow Sadiq and Marvin's example, and Carwyn in Wales, reminding people what Labour governments look like. How innovative and radical can we be? How growth and prosperity, social justice and fairness all go hand in hand under Labour. And not just doing the right thing, not just compassion, but doing the thing right, competence. When we're in government, we got things done. We built hospitals and schools, recruited teachers and doctors and nurses. We fixed the economy and made it hum for a decade. But the shape of the challenges never stops changing. So the shape of our solutions must change too. If you think the world's changed a lot in the last 25 years, it's nothing to what will happen in the next 25. New automated technologies are fusing the internet, creating models of work and jobs we haven't seen before. Daily, we hear about the machines doing things thought only humans could do, driving cars, drafting contracts, even writing music. It's being called the fourth industrial revolution. A new era of fast technology-driven change, which will transform the world we pass to our children. The potential is enormous. It's deep human progress, huge swathes of things we can get done without doing them ourselves. It's a good thing. But it certainly won't feel like that if you're the one whose job is shrinking and you'll pay along with it. People whose grandparents were time-served trade unionists are now working 60-hour weeks below the minimum wage without any support from a union. It's the dark side of the gig economy. And if you think of the UK as a pie chart, since 2009, the slice that goes to workers as wages has fallen relative to the slice that goes to the capital owners as profit. Labour seems to be diminishing relative to capital. It's there in that Thomas Piketty's blockbuster book. And in the next Labour government, we must judge ourselves on our ability to redraw that pie chart. The problems of inequality. The problems of inequality aren't new, but the solutions will need to be. So I put together an independent commission on the future of work to start influencing policy right now from opposition. It will be chaired by Helen Mountford QC, joined by a world-class team including Naomi Clymer, the first ever female president of the Institution of Engineering and Technology, Professor Michael Sandel, John Crudders and Lord Jim Knight, and many more. We'll feed into John Trickett's work on building a targeted industrial strategy, and we'll report back to you next year. By definition, Labour is the party of work, and we're also the party of growth. We have to be. As John McDonnell so deftly set out in his speech yesterday. Labour is a market socialist party. We understand and work with the market, but we don't worship it. The ideological, blinkered belief that markets are the answer to everything is the Tories' big blind spot. We know that. But of itself, the market's not the problem either. Some things markets are good at, others not. But they always need enlightened intervention to make them work. Unfettered markets oligopolise. That's why all developed economies have extensive and stringent competition law. And the lower paid end of the labour market never produces by itself outcomes acceptable in a decent society. Without regulation, the labour market just squeezes the price of work down and down until the people at the bottom are crushed. That's why we have a minimum wage. It's why John McDonnell was so right yesterday that we need a real living wage, that real people can afford to live on. It's why we had an agricultural wages board for 65 years till the Tories scrapped it. Why 0 hours contracts are such a rapidly growing instrument of exploitation. Because they're allowed. So come on, Theresa May. If you actually care about a decent society, let's have 0 hours contracts sorted now. We're Labour. Workers should have rights in a decent society, a proper contract, proper pay, decent conditions, and the right to organise. And as John told the BBC yesterday, Labour will create an entrepreneurial state that works with the wealth creators, the workers and the entrepreneurs. He understands, as the Tories don't, that you need both good government and a strong private sector to make a successful society. It's just a fact. Look what happens when you get it right. The 11 years of Labour government between 1997 and 2008 were a completely unbroken period of economic growth. We made the economy work like never before or since. And we lifted 500,000 children out of poverty and lifted 1 million pensioners out of poverty and gave millions of low-paid workers the decency of a national minimum wage and introduced a radically redistributive system of tax credits and winter fuel payments, free TV licences, free bus travels for older people, more than 100 new hospitals, more than 200,000 doctors, nurses, teachers, police officers, firefighters, bringing waiting lists down, school standards up, crime down, more than doubling our overseas aid budget. I could go on. I could go on. I could go on all afternoon about what we achieved during 11 years of economic growth. From a position of national prosperity, we had the space to do good things, and not just economically, but imaginatively. The nation as a whole bought into social justice. From the sunny uplands of increasing prosperity, social democratic government started to feel normal to the people of Britain. I don't know why we've been focusing on what was wrong with the Blair and Brown governments for the last 6 years. But trashing our record is not the way to enhance our brand. We won't win elections like that, and we need to win elections. The Prime Minister could call one next week. So now is the time to be proud of our party. We have to believe we can win and remember how much we achieve when we do. In the past, Jeremy, I don't think she got the unity memo. Now, in the past, big businesses were too easily cast as predators. We meant to say that we would stand up to the abuse of corporate power, as the Tories never will. But we ended up sounding like we were anti-business, anti-prosperity, anti-success. We're not, and we never have been. Capitalism, comrades, is not the enemy. Money's not the problem. Business isn't bad. The real world is more complicated than that, as any practical trade unionist will tell you. Businesses are where people work. The private sector is what generates the money to pay for our schools and hospitals. We can afford the best health service in the world because we're one of the most prosperous countries in the world. That's a fact, and we forget it at our peril. And I don't say this because it's what wins elections. I say it because it's true. And people know that it's true. And that's why it wins elections. And the British people need that from us. We're in the 7th year. We're in the 7th year of a Tory government. And the last time that happened, I looked round and it was 17 years of a Tory government. I was 30 when we finally got back into power. And I'd been just 7 years old when Labour had previously won a general election. I've never got over growing up under Thatcher. And that's not what I want for my children. And I don't want it for anyone's children. We can't let that happen again. We can't fail today's 7-year-olds. We can't let them grow up in Tory schools, paying to go to Tory hospitals, working all hours for low pay in jobs the Tories have degraded. We must be again what we are at our core, the party of Britain, of the real British values the Tories can never understand, of compassion and fairness alongside enterprise and fierce independence. This is no nation of ideologues, we know that. And that's our advantage over the Tories. They're blinded by money and power, it's all they care about. And the old lady next door, and your neighbour's children, and that migrant family working 60 hours a week and paying taxes, all these can go hang to the Tories. Other people don't matter to them. Well, that's not the British way. Yes, British people want a fair chance for themselves and their families. They want their hard work rewarded. But they also care what happens to other children in the class, the other people at the bus stop, the others in the lengthening queues waiting months now for life-saving operations. That is who the British people are. They look like us. And it's our job to show them once again that we're the natural party for them. And we need to do that now. The election could well be upon us. So let's give those Tories a surprise they'll remember. Get out on the streets and start telling the story of Labour. A great party of ordinary men and women, just like you, who can make the world better if you'll give us the chance. We've done it before and we've done it again. Let's win the election and set Britain free from the Tories.
Thank you, delegates. What a wonderful afternoon we've had, and what some inspirational speakers we've had today as well. That's why we're in the Labour Party, and that's why we're so proud of what we do. Conference, we now will move to the votes today. Can you settle down? The first vote is on contemporary composite 10 on grammar schools. Can I see all those in favour? Thank you. That's clearly carried.
Take those against.
Sorry, I have to take those against, but I wouldn't have expected there be any against. Any against contemporary motion 10? No, thank you. Next is on contemporary composite 8 on energy, moved by the GMB. Can I see all those in favour? Thank you. And any against? That is clearly carried. Next, the Children and Education Annual Report. Can I see all those in favour? Thank you. And anyone against? That's overwhelmingly carried. And finally, the Children and Education Priorities Issue document. Can I see all those in favour? Thank you. And anyone against? That's clearly carried. Okay. Tomorrow, for the leader's speech tomorrow afternoon, please note that you can use the jury's inn to leave your suitcases. Please do not bring them to the centre. Thank you. And can we just settle down, please? I'm about to announce the results of the card votes, and I'm sure you'll be all interested in that. So can we have a little bit of hush? Conference, the results of the rule change card votes from this morning's sessions are as follows. Resolution 1 on NEC rule changes was carried. Resolution 2 on trade union retired members' branches affiliating to CLPs, submitted by Ashfield CLP, was also carried. Resolution 3 on the priorities ballot, submitted by Bury North CLP, Exeter CLP and Blackpool North and Cleveland CLP, was not carried. Resolution 4 on submissions to conference, submitted by Mid-Bedfordshire CLP, Mid-Norfolk CLP, Orpington CLP, South Derbyshire CLP, South West Devon CLP, Torridge and West Devon CLP and Uxbridge and South Ruslip CLP, was not carried. Resolution 5 on the right to refer back part of a policy document submitted by Sheffield Healy was carried. Full details of the results, including the breakdown between constituencies and affiliates, will be available tomorrow in CAC Report 4. Conference, thank you for your patience today. We have run over slightly. Conference reconvenes at 10:30 in the morning.